Coming up on this episode of the Village Idiom.
Talk around the water cooler and not get fired.
Are there water coolers still?
No, there's nothing shared anymore. If you share anything, you die. Welcome to the new age.
Dum dum da da, Village Idiom.
The tens. Hello and welcome to the Village Idiom.
We are a podcast, and every single week we choose a popular saying to take an admittedly shallow, hopefully comedic, once in a while interesting, if we're lucky, educational dive into its meaning, its usage, its origins. But mostly we're going to use it to hang our otherwise directionless conversation on. My name is Jurassic Mark.
I am Skinny. It's a fantastic week here in Paradise.
Paradise?
Oh, it's so beautiful here right
yesterday.
now. Well,
it didn't stick though. It was fake snow. It was the threat of snow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just here for a bit. I was thinking more of the weekend. We just finished out a comic convention. Did you get a chance?
Did you go?
I did. Fan Expo.
Oh, Fan Expo. There was another one right before it, but nobody seemed to even hear about that other than me. But you went to Fan Expo. What did you? Give me the quick highlights before we get into.
Okay, so amazing things that I just appreciate about the idea of Fan Expo, the fan art and the mashup of genres.
They call that fart for short.
Yes, fart. Oh, the farting. The fan art is so like I think a great example would be the Peanuts styled characters. You know how they're kind of just a little more short and stout, Charlie Brown.
Sure. But
done in Archie characters.
Wait a minute. So Charlie Brown as an Archie, or the other way around?
No, so Charlie Brown as an Archie. So Archie, that's all like, you know, the squatty little pudgy Charlie Brown sized, that kind of thing. Where
so Archie is short.
Archie is short.
Oh, I thought you were
all the other characters.
I thugh you were making Charlie Brown tall like Archie.
No. It's the complete opposite. But so then you get your Betty, Veronica, and Jughead all like. Yeah. Doing a thing. And so those kind of mashups I find just amazing.
That's great.
The next set that really killed me, and same thing on the art side, I got to meet Anthony Daniels. That was neat. So C-3PO.
Oh.
Yep. Got a picture taken with him. Anyways, there was
for some reason I pictured Anthony Hopkins when you said that.
Hello, Clarice.
Yes.
He was there in his GIMP costume. Okay, so
Anthony, wow. That's an actual meet.
Isn't that a cool one?
Yeah.
That's a cool one. It's actual C-3PO. But anyways, there was this, and it sounds, corny and maybe a little off color, is the bathroom art. And so it was like superheroes or like anime type characters that are like just sitting on the toilet, like a sideways view.
I literally thought you meant when you were in the bathroom, there was art even in there.
No.
Bathroom humor, bathroom art.
It's bathroom art, but like a wall full of it. And so it's like, it'd be like one that stands out was like Superman just bearing down on like he's got a deuce to drop and he's just like, and he's shooting lasers out of his eyes because he's trying to go to the bathroom so hard.
I feel like...
And so it's just like, if I'm sitting in your washer, you're like, that's hilarious.
Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I feel like, I mean, I've never worn a cape, and I still feel like I've struggled with certain hoodies to keep it out of the bowl.
So a cape is good.
So imagine a cape, like those guys have it rough.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
Yeah. So
it's not easy being a super pooper.
The cosplay people were in full force. I can't believe how many people had costumes on.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's the fun part, hey?
It was extensive.
Did you wear anything remotely Comic-Con, or did you go as...
No, my nephew had a Joker.
Did you wear a Village Idiom t-shirt?
I didn't.
Were people flocking you?
I didn't. Nothing like that.
Maybe next year we could do
I'm not even sure they knew who I was.
What?
No, I know.
That's not true.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
That's not true. But, they're there for other reasons. We're not comic book. We're not quite that pop culture, but we're close. But it'd be nice to do a live one there, maybe next year.
But if someone could do us up as Archie characters.
Oh, now we're talking.
Or someone do us up as Peanuts characters.
I mean, maybe we should just submit shots of us sitting on the can. Would anybody buy that?
Well, you never know. You have not because you ask not. Yeah, so I'm going to call it a paradisical weekend.
Well, as far as what kind of pictures we should take and what we shouldn't take, that's a semi-good introduction to today's idiom, which here's a little clip from Happy Days.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is an old rule of thumb.
Rule of thumb. That is today. And the rule of thumb is don't submit pictures of yourself on the can.
Please don't.
Yeah. Rule of thumb, which its meaning is...
I'm hoping to be shocked today because I have in my mind what I've been told already rule of thumb is.
Okay, well, maybe that'll give you an advantage on the game. I do have a game for you to guess where the origins are coming from before we get there. And I should mention that it was a friend of a friend who recommended this idiom. So this was an actual request. And Village Idiom children out there, by all means, if you want to make a request, if you hear an idiom or a phrase or a saying out there in the world and you're like, wonder where that comes from. Yeah, you could Google it. Or you could send us a little message and we'll give a shout out to you and tell you this one goes to you.
So when I looked up rule of thumb in the news, which sometimes I like to take these idioms, look them up in the news, 80% of all the hits were finance related.
Rule of thumb.
Rule of thumb.
Really?
And all had to do, so the rule of thumb, it was like the generalized, this is how things should be. The generalization as a rule of thumb.
As a rule of thumb.
Yeah, which, more into its meaning. So how it's used today.
This is the what I wrote down. A rule of thumb is a means of estimation made according to a rough and ready practical rule, not based on science or exact measurement. Mm-hmm. So that was as official of a definition as I could get for this as an idiom, or its general meaning. I will tell you this. I have one rule of thumb story.
Okay.
I was pulled over while out of town. I was driving my very tiny firstborn at the time, and my wife and my mom all in the car. I'm driving. We get pulled over. We're out of town. I have no idea why we're being pulled over. Literally don't. Everybody could see this.
Rule of thumb, don't jump out of the vehicle.
Everybody could see
Start running at the police car.
The police on the side of the car. And so people were literally slowing down. It was kind of bottlenecked. And so me and the car in front of me, and a few others all get pulled over. So, the classic, do you know why I pulled you over? And I said, I actually have no idea. I know I wasn't speeding. And he's like, oh, you were traveling too close to the car in front of you. And I said, what? We were all coming to a stop because everybody saw you. So it was bottlenecking this actual part.
This is your fault.
Yeah, this is your fart. Your fart. Everything's called fart today. This was your fault that we were coming up close to each other's bumper. And he's like, yeah, well, we have decided you were too close to the car in front of you. And I said, well, what is too close? What's the measurement? And he says, well, I can't.
2 seconds?
He's like, I can't give you an actual measurement. I'm like, so you're going to ticket me on something you can't give me a measurement on? Yeah, well, it wasn't me that pulled you over. I'm just the one writing the ticket. It's my supervisor that wrote the ticket. I'm like, well, maybe he could explain to you why you're pulling me over, because I feel like I deserve at least an explanation of why I'm being pulled over. Well, I told you, sir, you were driving too close to the car in front of you. And
How close is that again?
I said, well, I know I've had this is what I said to him. I said, I know I've had my license for a number of years, but I clearly remember my instruction manual before getting my learners even that said a rule of thumb to follow somebody is a 4-second count from bumper
in
to
the
bumper.
rain. 2 seconds.
2 seconds otherwise?
Yeah, 4 seconds in the rain.
So I said 4 seconds. Mm-hmm. I said, but that official printed educational director's instruction manual that was given to me to get my license used the words, and I quote, rule of thumb, which is not an exact science. So if you can't give me a measurement, I'd like to talk to your supervisor. Well, it's not going to happen. He's back a ways, stopping people. And I said, well, he's like, you can fight this, but it's out of town. And I'm like, I'm never going to fight this. I'm never going to drive to your silly little town.
Drive around your podunk.
So it was extra annoying because I had a perfect driver's record to that point. And he couldn't give me an exact measurement. The book said rule of thumb 4 second, which is super unofficial. And he's given me a ticket for an issue that they caused by causing all the cars to slow down and get closer to each other.
That's hilarious.
Rule of thumb. Doesn't work in court. Maybe it would have if I went to court.
All of your police stories.
I should have gone to court on that one. I just didn't want to go.
I did get pulled over for the same for tailgating. When I was heading out to seminary,
barbecuing and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lit barbecue on the back while I was traveling.
It sounds lit.
So there was a semi driving in the fast lane, but not going fast, and so I was behind him flashing my lights. And behind me was a cop car.
You can't flash somebody?
Apparently it's illegal to flash people.
Really?
Yeah.
Give them a little tweet tweet.
Oh, no.
Move aside?
No, I was pulling my shirt off.
Oh.
Yeah. No, that kind of flashing. Yeah. No, you're talking about with the headlights? Regrettably, I do have headlights.
Did you get a ticket for tailgating, for flashing, or the semi?
I got... So no, I did get pulled over. I didn't get a ticket because he also thought it was annoying. But he's like, you can't do that.
I didn't know you couldn't do that.
Apparently, you can't do that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now you know. Rule of thumb.
Or maybe you can. You just
Rule
told
of
me.
thumb
I just
is you
believed
don't
him.
flash anyone.
No flashing.
No definition
semis,
of
no
the word
tailgating.
flashing. Well, let's get into origins in a second here. But before we sing our little...
Can I tell you what mine is just before?
Before I even give you options?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then I can hear your options.
Okay.
But we've always heard, and I imagine you heard it this way too, that you can't beat your wife with anything thicker than your thumb. Old school. Don't tell me.
They say you can't.
Well,
But she would have to actually report you.
as a rule of thumb.
As a rule of thumb. So you can't beat your wife with anything thicker.
This is like old school.
Literally a wives' tale.
That's what they claim.
Well,
so yeah, that if it was,
well, you preemptively
imagine
gave
the
your
idea.
guess. I'm now going to give you 3 options
Okay.
that may or may not contain that as an option.
it's so ridiculous. that
Option number 1, origin story of the idiom rule of thumb. Option number 1, patriarchal spousal abuse.
There it is.
So,
But I think you might be throwing me off, so I'm going to go with no matter what, it's not going to be that.
Oh, okay.
Because I refuse to believe that was a
Okay,
a
sounds
thing.
good. I'll give you the other 2 then. You might enjoy this one. The size comparison of fingers to nostrils. The size comparison of fingers to nostrils.
Wow. Okay.
And the third one is the fact that the thumb is easily broken. So patriarchal spousal abuse, which was what you guessed ahead of time. The size comparison of fingers to nostrils, or the fact that the thumb is easily broken.
The legitimate children, jump in there with me with your preemptive guess. I'm going to go C.
That the fact that the thumb is
Yes.
easily broken.
I have broken my thumb catching a soccer ball because I was in goal and it snapped it back.
Did you save the...
But I kept it. I glued it back on.
I didn't mean...
I'm okay now.
Did you keep
Yes, I kept it.
Did you save the thumb? I mean, did you save the goal? Like, did they
held
score
it,
on you?
No, I held my thumb in my hand. I'm like, it's not your time.
You did one of these?
I pumped it a little bit just to and then I blew into its little...
Mouth to thumb?
Yeah. I pumped it a little bit. It was amazing. Yeah. It was a real tender moment that me and my thumb had that day.
Somebody loves you. Well, let's find out where this all comes from.
I said some words, where'd they go? Where'd they go? No one can know. I turned around and looked behind. Those words came from another mind. Origins.
Alrighty, well, you... I will join you in saying that...
You're going to join me in C on your puzzle?
No, I'm going to tell you that before looking it up, I thought the same of you. I've at least
I've heard that.
heard that before. In
Urban
fact,
legend.
I saved this little clip from the Boondock Saints that
In
says,
the early 1900s, it was legal for men to beat their wives.
right?
As long as they used a stick no wider than their thumb.
So that's what we've all heard, right?
So I'm going. It can't be that. There can't be some legal thing.
So I'll
about
go
caning
through
your wife.
Exactly. I'll go through what I've in popular imagination in England, at least the rule of thumb has been said to derive from the belief that English law allowed a man to beat his wife with a stick so long as it was no thicker than his thumb. This is not the case. So you've eliminated A.
It couldn't have been that. It's too ridiculous.
It's not the case, although it is true that in English common law once held that it was legal for men to chastise their wife using, well, actually it said in moderation, whatever that might mean.
Oh, he got himself in trouble. I think he died like over a decade ago. But Sean Connery because he said, I wrote it down because it was so it was like he said that, and it got him in apparently a bunch of heat. His particular quote: "Sometimes a woman just needs a little slap." That's what he said.
I mean,
so he got
that's true for men and women, though.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, that's such a funny phrase, but it wasn't that like long ago, like maybe in the last 50 years, where that whole idea of hysterics. You're hysterical. And
Yeah.
then you grab somebody and you shake them and
up.
slap them a bit.
But that's just babies, right?
Yeah, well, we don't shake them. You don't shake a baby. So after you slap them.
Wait a minute.
So and then there's a scene from the movie Airplane where there's a lady, she's becoming hysterical, and then it's like, calm down,
Slap.
yeah, and then slap. Or no, the first person is just shaking them, and it's like, hey, let me handle this, and then the next person comes up. And
I do remember that scene.
Shake him and slaps him, and then like a nun comes up.
Yeah, I
and
do
slaps
remember
her
that
twice,
scene. That's
and
funny.
Then there's like a lineup of people with like boxing gloves and someone with like a crowbar. Yeah,
Totally
you're being
remember that.
hysterical.
Yeah. So
Rule of thumb.
it does not come from that. Despite the phrase being in common use since the 17th century and has appeared thousands of times in print, there's no printed record that this is in any way associated with domestic violence until the 1970s. And guess who brought it up?
Chris Brown.
This notion of the rule of thumb coming from men beating women was invented by the then modern day feminists who just were looking for ammo. So completely fictionalized by the feminist movement of the 1970s. Did not come from that. There's no reason to think that it did. The responses that circulated then, which assumed the wife beating law to be true, was influenced by a cartoon apparently called Gilray's Cartoon, which I couldn't find. But it came up often enough that it was Gilray's Cartoon gave it some sort of credence, which is hilarious that you're getting your backing. Well, I got proof to back it up. Check out this comic strip. It's stupid.
Charlie Brown told me to.
And they also, several sites
you blockhead,
indicated that the Rolling Stones song called Under My Thumb helped propel it even further, which was a 1966
Under the
song.
Thumb is different.
It is Under the Thumb. That's a totally different idiom.
That's a different idiom.
But they think that there's at least coincidence that it became popular by the feminists at the same time.
Maybe
this
that's
song
how
came
like
out.
hitchhikers, like with they're putting their thumb out.
I almost
It's like,
use
look
hitchhikers as
look
one of the
look
options.
at the size. Look how little my thumb is. It's the least I could beat you with.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the worst this is going to get.
So the phrase itself has been in circulation since the 1600s. Earliest known use of it in print is in a sermon. So it comes from a good place, depending on the sermon, I guess.
The good place.
Given by an English Puritan, James Durham, you know those Puritans, and printed in Heaven Upon Earth in 1658. And this is what it says. Many professed Christians are like to foolish builders who build by guess and by rule of thumb and not by square and rule. So that's exactly, in use of what it means. It means you're guesstimating something.
It's about, well, I don't know about you, but when you press your thumb down on something, how it gets wider.
Well,
So you're like guessing by rule of thumb. You're
Right.
like, it's about that wide unless I press it down.
Yeah.
It's only a half press. That adds another 16th of an inch.
So the sad news is that the origin of the phrase is kind of unknown. So
That is sad.
There's no B or C, unfortunately. A is the closest to being a correct answer because it's so popular
It can't be
in
accurate,
use, but
yeah.
it's not where it comes from. However, there is a lot of speculation that says likely is used because it refers to one of the numerous ways that thumbs throughout history have indeed been used to measure things. Like think about doing this thing when you're measuring something in the distance. I'm holding my thumb up towards the camera.
Like a painter.
Yeah.
Trying to give-
or the fact that people say that from the tip of your thumb,
The teeth and lips.
from the tip of the thumb to the first knuckle is an inch.
But it's not on everyone.
And like this kind of framing something using your two thumbs together and the other fingers up, your thumb has been used a variety of ways throughout history, whether realistically or not, to be used as measuring tool. Apparently, it was also used to measure the temperature of brews of beer. So again, it was a way of measuring was the thumb. So the earliest measurement use that I could find in print is in a journal of tales with title of Wit's Recreations, augmented with ingenious conceits for the witty and merry medicines for the melancholic, which is quite the title. 1640, and this is the rhyme that is found within it. So the oldest that I could find anywhere on the interwebs. If Hercules' tall stature might be guessed, but by his thumb the index of the rest. In due proportion, the best rule that I would choose to measure Venus' beauty by should be her leg and foot. The rule of leg never caught on. So it's kind of a little tongue-in-cheek thing. Here's the thing that I thought was the coolest. Are you ready? The Germans have a similar phrase to indicate a rough approximation, and it's Pi mal Daumen. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but Pi mal Daumen, which translated as pi, like 3.14, times thumb.
Wow,
Yeah,
funny.
I'm like, that's funny. How big is that building? It's like pi times thumb. Yeah, it's just a funny little thing. What time are we at? Okay, I'll continue a little bit. There was something that might have continued the mistaken whatchamacallit, like definition of it being the thickness of a rod you could beat your wife with, which goes back to that cartoon, and specifically a separate cartoon by James Gilray, which was a satirical cartoon attacking Buller, who was a judge, who apparently was incredibly harsh in his punishments and had a reputation for being arrogant, and he became known as Judge Thumb. But this comic book was the judge and then another man chasing a woman with a stick, and it like kind of reinforced that it came from a legal place, because the judge became known as Judge Thumb, and that was the comic strip that best represented his harshness. And so there was this connection point that see, this goes all the way back to this judicial decision.
It's legal.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that came from.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good fun time.
Well, I knew it had to be. It's out there.
It's out there
because you're just told that, like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
You're like, but when you think about it, you're like, that can't have been a thing.
I found a little clip of the use of rule of thumb from the unlikeliest of characters, because I would expect this guy to be more about actual facts than to say rule of thumb and being guesstimate. But
Italian housewives have a rule of thumb.
Just, what's his name? Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. But yeah, so that's it. That's the end of any sort of origins that I might have for you.
That's fantastic. Hopefully, illegitimate children, you grabbed a little something about that you can talk around the water cooler and not get fired.
Are there water coolers still?
No, there's nothing shared anymore. If you share anything, you die. Welcome to the new age.
Rule of thumb is get your own water bottle.
Don't share anything. We don't even refill at refilling station because someone could have breathed on it.
Somebody licked it.
Yeah, it's possible. You have to have your own individual one now. Excuse me. Well, heading into the end of things, we should jump in with some Riddlink.
Oh, yeah? You want to play? Riddlink is a game we like to play. It takes a two-part trivia-based question, requires a two-part overlapping answer, overlapping by sound, syllable, word, or word. So, for example, last week, episode 215, Under the Sun, we left you with this one. Robin's nickname has nothing new here. Do you know Robin's nickname?
Tell me the whole thing again.
Robin's nickname has nothing new here.
I want to go the boy wonder. Nothing new here. Wonder under the sun.
Yeah, you got it.
The boy wonder the sun.
The boy wonder the sun.
Oh, man.
And that's how you play Riddlink. You got two answers. The boy wonder and under the sun.
Okay.
Correct answer is not both. Correct answer is boy wonder the sun.
The boy wonder the sun. Well, I've got a couple prepared.
I got a couple.
Let's get into this. Jeffrey Bruce Atkins hosted Fire Festival, which as a generalization, I wouldn't do. Jeffrey Bryce Atkins hosted Fire Festival, which as a generalization, I wouldn't do.
Is that the real name of Ja Rule? So Ja Rule of Thumb?
That's Ja Rule of Thumb.
Excellent. I love it. That's a good one. Okay, let me give you one.
Okay.
What Elvis song opposes viciousness? You can estimate. What Elvis song opposes viciousness? You can estimate.
Don't Be Cruel of Thumb.
That's it.
That's great. Now this one's going to dig a little deep, and some of you Disneyites are going to have to really kick your brain into gear. This inaccurate measuring digit is a digit-sized heroine who marries Prince Cornelius.
Are they called Disneyites?
I don't know. Is there a special land?
If you're crazy about
Disnopia?
Disney, like you're just
Disneyland?
nuts about Disney. Are they Disnuts?
Disnuts. Man, you should make a shirt with the Disney logo.
Disnuts?
Disnuts. Oh, man. That would be
I didn't even
the worst.
hear your riddlink because my brain went to Disney.
That would be an amazing t-shirt with the big swoopy D. Disnuts. Okay. I'm crazy for Disneyland.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what was
that
your
is not
riddlink?
gonna
Sorry, I didn't even hear it.
This inaccurate measuring digit is a digit-sized heroine who marries Prince Cornelius.
Well, I'm
This
gonna have to say
inaccurate
this.
measuring digit is a digit-sized heroine who marries Prince Cornelius.
I'm gonna see your riddlink with a riddlink before I even answer.
Okay.
Make a guess using your opposable as to what the name of Hans Christian Andersen's tiny girl is. And if you haven't figured it out, those are both the riddlink puzzle for the same answer. So let's leave it hanging. Tell everybody how they can play along.
You can reach out and answer that one on Instagram at the.village.idiom or email us thevillageidiompodcast@gmail.com or whether it's the Facebooks, the YouTubes, or the Twitters at 3 Minutes Gone.
Do I hear something dumb?
Yeah.
When I was writing that riddlink, I said the final one. I said Hans Christian Andersen's tiny girl. My first version of it was Peter Pan's tiny friend, and I'm like, wait a minute,
It's not her name.
that's not her name.
And that is 3 Minutes Gone.
All right, well, I hope people play along with that one. We're one riddlink short this week, but it's all good.
For something that's supposed to be so small, that's the biggest riddlink we've hung out there in a while. Well, hopefully you enjoyed putting whatever. Just enjoyed yourself. Whatever way you find enjoyment. I'm Skinny.
I'm Jurassic Mark.
And these are the Village Idioms.
Last 3 minutes gone.